Oliver, and I currently serve as the Lieutenant Governor for the state of New Jersey. As the Lieutenant Governor, I have to have a department. I have to be a part of the governor's cabinet. So I also serve as the Commissioner of the New Jersey Department of Community Affairs. The Department of Community Affairs was created back in the late 1960s when there was, from one end of the country to the other, a questioning of how government was helping to improve the quality of life within municipalities, within nonprofit organizations, et cetera. Today, the Department of Community Affairs does a variety of things, and we're focused upon the creation of affordable housing. We are focused on helping small minority and women-owned businesses get established in their communities. And we also do things like local planning services. Two arms of our department are the New Jersey Redevelopment Authority and the New Jersey Housing Mortgage Finance Agency. But all of the work we do in DCA is geared to improve the quality of life for the residents of New Jersey, to work collaboratively with nonprofits to do problem solving around various issues. We work with nonprofits and local governments to address issues of homelessness, food insecurity, unemployment, and we work with the private sector to see how the public and private sectors can come together to work collaboratively on solving problems, quite frankly. So that's what my role is as the Commissioner of the Department of Community Affairs. Ironically, I explained to people that for me, it started when I was in the 8th grade. I was in an honors English class and we were reading all the great classics. One of the books that we were assigned was A Tale of Two Cities by Charles Dickens, the story of the French Revolution. And the fact that my birthday is July 14th, which is Bastille Day, I was very excited to get into this book. In reading A Tale of Two Cities, I was struck by how the people were so disadvantaged. There was no justice for them, and they had no food. They were living pretty bad lives. And one day they went to the palace, and it was King Louis at the time, and Marie Antoinette, that infamous queen, she was told that all of the peasants and the poor people were gathered around the palace asking for bread. And they were saying, "We have no bread." And when Marie Antoinette was told that, she said, "Well, if they have no bread, let them eat cake." And I think as a 13-year-old, that elevated my consciousness about justice, about economic, distinction and classism and all of those things. And I think that opened my eyes that you had to be activists to address problems. So subsequently, I become, I go through school, I become a senior in high school, and I'm a baby boomer, so, I was in the throe of the whole 60s, let's change the social climate of this country. And my schoolmates all around the city, and I grew up in the city of Newark, decided that we needed representation on the Board of Education. So we decided we were going to organize a citywide strike. And a local pastor allowed us to come to his church, and we organized. We didn't have fax machines in those days. We didn't have cell phones, but we got a local printer to print flyers for us, and we went all around the city giving them out at different schools. The day of the strike, we had hundreds of students from around the city. We converged on the church, and we had a discussion about what we as young people wanted as a result of our education and other issues that needed to be addressed. And we felt the best way to accomplish that was by having a student on the local Board of Education. So the leadership of the city at that time, they relented. And as a result, we were able to get a member of from our ranks, appointed as a member of the Board of Education. His name was Larry Ham. He went on to Princeton, but ironically, he was the founder of an organization in New Jersey called People's Organization for Progress. And he continues to head that organization up today. So that was the spark that got me going. I lived through the assassination of King. I lived through the assassination of JFK and Robert Kennedy. And, I lived through the whole Black Power movement. I lived through people questioning, why some people had everything, some people had nothing. And I decided pretty early on that, I wanted to dedicate my life and my activism to making it more equitable in society. And that is what I have done since that 8th grade reading of that book. I think that all change makers, or those who aspire to be change makers, need to hone their communication skills. I have learned through the course of my career that sometimes problems don't get solved and addressed is because they are not properly communicated. There's always has to be a protagonist in a story. And what my experience has taught me is that if we learn how to directly and effectively communicate with people, we can gather everyone around a table and problems can be solved. I am a strong believer in collaboration. And through my career, I participated in an organization that was called North Collaboration Group. It was the executives of Prudential Insurance, some of the captains of industry around New Jersey, together with teachers and school superintendents and the leaders of nonprofit organizations, local government representation. And, when that organization was created, we were told by many of the participants this was the first time they had ever sat in a room with another major stakeholder in the community. So I was sold on the concept of collaboration early on in my career. I also would encourage and recommend that people get involved in organizations. I spent a great deal of time in my career serving on voluntary boards of different types of organizations, getting involved in board training so that you could operate effectively and efficiently a nonprofit organization. And why I am promoting and encouraging people to get involved with the voluntary nonprofit sector is because government will never, ever alone be able to solve the problems that we have in our society. And nonprofits are the perfect vehicle. It's a few people coming together who are like-minded and they have the same ideas about how you can address and solve a problem. I found that doing that type of work through the lens of a voluntary nonprofit is a good way to do it. Everyone always quotes the archaeologist Margaret Mead, and she wrote, "Never doubt that a small group of people can change the world, because by all measurement, that's the only thing that has changed the world." You don't need hundreds of people. You don't have to have, a lot of assets. You don't even have to have a lot of equipment in the beginning. But I think that it's people coming together, believing in the same thing, and making a commitment to working collaboratively to make things happen. That is the advice I would give to anyone that wanted to be a change maker. Okay, so I joined together with other people who were executive directors or CEOs of nonprofit service delivery organizations in the city of Newark. At the time, I was the executive director of an organization called the Leaguers Incorporated. The Leaguers was created in 1946 by a Black educator and her physician husband, and their objective in the 40s was to expose young people from the Black community what college life was like, to introduce them to careers, and to support them with scholarship assistance. Subsequently, when I stepped into that role, that was part of our mission, but we also were doing early childhood education. We were doing community development work. We were operating programs for the elderly, older adults. So we formed this organization. Each one of us was doing similar types of programs, but in different sections of the city. We were very satirical about the role of government, because here we were working at the neighborhood grassroots level, trying to provide quality of life things for people. And we saw that government was not really addressing the issues that people had. We thought that in unity, there was strength. That was our slogan. We were able to get foundations to support us. And we opened an office, and we worked on all types of initiatives that were quality of life kinds of things. But, public housing has been an issue in this country for a very long time. We saw the growth of public housing in this country during the 1950s. And back in those days, they thought the best way to address helping low-income people have a roof over their heads was by building these massive developments that were later known as, quote, the projects. Well, in Newark, the Newark Housing Authority had a pretty extensive network of projects. And Newark, after the civil unrest they experienced in the late 60s, decided, after they had to rebuild that city, that one of the best ways to do that would be to eliminate housing for disadvantaged and low-income families. Because our organization served those families, we knew that that wasn't the thing to do. The Newark Housing Authority was going to dynamite up and bring down every high-rise building of low-income housing. They accomplished that in Chicago. There was an infamous project in Chicago called the Cabrini Green. We decided that we would get some pro bono legal help, and our organization filed a lawsuit, a federal lawsuit, against the Newark Housing Authority. The suit went on for quite a number of years. An injunction was served upon the Housing Authority that they could not remove any housing until this case was settled. Subsequently, we won our case, and the federal judge ruled that for every unit of affordable housing that the Newark Housing Authority eliminated, they had to replace it with a brand new housing unit. That was quite a victory for us when we accomplished that, particularly because the replacement housing was townhouse development, a little green in the front, a little green in the back, creating an environment for families to live a better quality of life than to have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people stacked up on high-rise buildings. We believe that the work that we did on that initiative really began to change the trajectory of the Newark leadership, re-examining how Newark could be rebuilt. And if you visit Newark, New Jersey today, it is a destination place. There is development all over. There's a light rail. There's a bustling corporate sector. And there is an explosion of small business development. So I think I always point to that as the thing that I'm most proud of during my career. You know, I've always had the double whammy of being Black, but being a woman as well. And when we think about race being a factor, gender is equally a challenge when you try to do this work. But I had parents who always encouraged me to speak up and to not feel intimidated by anyone. And that's pretty much who I have been, you know, since I was a child and in high school and in college. I never felt during the course of my work that I had to ask for permission to be at the table. My favorite person who influenced me was the late Shirley Chisholm. She was the first Black woman congresswoman in our country. And Shirley Chisholm once said in a speech, if they don't give you a seat at the table, then bring your own folding chair. So that has pretty much been the motivation for me to just walk into a room as if I belonged in that room, not feeling intimidated by anyone, not feeling that I didn't belong there because of race or ethnicity or religion or gender. And I would encourage young people to adopt that point of view. I don't think it is healthy to feel that, you know, you can't attain something or aspire something because there is an immovable challenge in your way. I think this week, this nation has been encouraged as we have learned about the life of the late Congressman Lewis. I think that John Lewis is the epitome of an American story. Age 14, writing a letter to a man who was emerging as a national leader, Martin Luther King, having the opportunity to be mentored by him, to be mentored by other leaders in the community that were trying to address the issue of racism, discrimination, and Jim Crow laws in this country. Rose up, started out as a sharecropper, which means, you know, his family's legacy was they were working on plantations in the state of Georgia, and to see that he let nothing stand in his way, marching across that old Edmund Pettus Bridge and getting bludgeoned in the head, that didn't stop John Lewis. And I think that I would encourage young people to, the first time you don't have a success or the first time you get knocked down, you just pick yourself up and you keep going on. You know, young people, we always say, keep it moving. I would encourage young people to just keep it moving. I just want to affirm the work that you are doing at NYU in terms of exposing people to the governance lab. I am a person who believes that a career in the public sector, a career in government, can be the most fulfilling work you'll ever be able to do. It's not like, you know, working in a regimented environment where you come to work every day, there's always something new. There's always a new challenge, a new problem. I think about a plaque that I had on my wall earlier in my career, and it was extracted from a speech by John F. Kennedy. But he said it's time for a new generation of leadership because there are new ideas and new challenges to be conquered. I'm very proud of the young people who are engaging in the Black Lives Matter movement. It is wonderful seeing people of all backgrounds, all economic levels, all races, all genders, joining together to address the issue of social and economic justice in this country. And I would encourage young people to continue to do the same and also look toward a world view. We all live on this planet together, and problems that exist in remote places are going to have an implication for where we live, the United States. So I'm so happy that the Governance Lab exists. It has the ability to expose students to this concept of public service, and it's a great career.